Okay, so in this video, I wanted to talk about how I made modifications to my son's salutations to accommodate for some pain that I was feeling today. I wanted to make this video just because I think that making modifications for yourself is a skill, and a part of improving that, at least for myself, is to improve my language around accommodation. So this isn't gonna be a follow along. I'll just be like observing what I'm doing in the video and giving like a verbal description, trying to like recall why I made certain choices that I did. So I'll be saying accommodation a lot in this video because that's a lot of what I was doing. And hopefully, like, by doing this, I'll just build up my own intuition so that I make better accommodations for myself. But I also want my language to be better around it so that like I can share these modifications for like someone else that like may need them. So what I'm doing right now is just like getting comfortable on my mat in my backyard. Just like my grass is really crunchy, so I'm just crunching the grass with my feet and getting ready for all the different ways it may crunch with my movements throughout my stretch today. So besides that, I'm also kind of starting to think about what I want to get out of this stretch. I wasn't expecting to feel this pain in my hand. So I was thinking I was about to come out here and do something kind of intense, since it is like one of the last warmer days of the year. I just wanted to get a good sweat in, but as you'll see, spoiler alert, that did not happen. So I'm coming down to the mat and just getting ready to take my first deep breaths of the day, and just kind of enjoy the scenery because I typically do my stretches and stuff indoors. So just trying to see what being outside is offering me that inside didn't. So now I'm about to come to a little seat so that I can bring some energy up through my feet. So I'm just, bending those toes away from my face and back towards it, stretching out the bottom of my feet and getting a little stretch. Like this stretch, it also like awakens like the top of my thighs and like my lower belly. So I really like that. And I'm just bringing a little bit more energy, like slowly, by kicking my legs like with some little kicks and then some bigger kicks. And I'm starting here because I had an injury to my knee last week, and yeah, it was just awful. Like I couldn't move. I couldn't get into like sit down on a chair comfortably. So I'm just trying to acknowledge some pain to see if that needs accommodations. And since this was good, I thought everything was going to be good. But like I said, we'll see that was not the case. So yeah, I'm just shaking my legs out. And my intuition right here was telling me to get into, I don't even know what that pose is called, but like when you're on your back and you just spread your legs out. But I would have probably stayed in that position way too long and not gotten to the point where I'm like moving like super actively. So I decided not to do that. But I did decide to like continue to lay here to do my wrist warm-ups instead of like sitting up, because I was just really enjoying that sun like baking on my face. But looking back, like knowing now that like the pain that I was going to be experiencing was in my wrist, I would have sat up so that I could like do this part a little bit more intentionally. Because you can see now I'm really not giving a fuck. Just going through the movement, not feeling out the movement. So yeah, I do that for a little bit, and I don't know, I probably would have stayed laying down like this all day if the thought of like some of the things I had to do throughout the day didn't come to mind. But that sun was feeling really, really good. So I give myself a little stretch so that I can get ready to take on this little exercise. And of course, I gotta fluff out my fro. Can't get good energy if my fro is flat. So yeah, I'm just going to continue warming up those wrists. I'm putting them behind me and just pressing my palm down. And at this point, I don't think I was feeling any pain. Like that I look in pain a little bit. Maybe when I started walking it to the front, I was feeling it. But I'm trying to work it out with these little, I don't know what these are called either. I don't really know what shit is called. That's why I'm here talking, so that I could start calling stuff something like more uniform. Like, what is this movement called? I don't know, but I do that. And it's kind of awkward for me. But like as I've been incorporating it in my practice more and more, it's become a little bit more easy, or it's become a good way to like orient myself, or what's a better way of saying that? It's becoming more and more of a tool to see where my wrists are, because I don't know if I've already said it 100 times, but my wrists typically give me issues. So like it could be in a workout or a stretch or just like my day-to-day like typing and whatnot. Like it's gonna be a sensitive place for me. So at this point, trying to see how much weight I could put on my warmed up wrist. And I think at that point I felt some pain. But at this point in my exercise, I wasn't like completely committed to accommodating for the problem that I'm feeling. Like at this point, I'm seeing what the upper bounds of like my injury is. So like I would have gone straight to cat-cows right now, but I'm just doing this back and forth motion to slowly apply pressure to different areas of my hand. So I think I'm doing this position because I was just so disappointed that I can't just get straight into it and boom, boom, pow, like stretch everything like super deeply. So yeah, this is my last ditch effort to warm up those hands a little bit more. Give them a little love, rub on it a little bit, whatever that would do. And rub the other one. Don't even stretch it, just rub it, I see. Oh, no, we are going to stretch it. I lied. So yeah, I'm about to get up and continue to push the bounds, so put a little bit more weight. And I'm trying to just think of all of the principles of yoga that I know that might alleviate some of this. So I'm spreading my stance a little bit more. I'm spreading my fingertips, trying to claw into my fingertips so that, you know, the energy is going all the way through my hands instead of focusing on like that dead part of my wrist. And I'm doing my cat-cows now, keeping my movements small, very, very small, so I can feel through my hands a little bit more and see like, is this stretch going to be possible the way that I thought I was going to do it? But yeah, this is just like the beginning stages of that, because I'm still pretty determined at this point, like I said, to do a full out sun salutations. So we're going to keep going and do some rotations to see if, like, maybe sometimes, I can't go into a movement the way I know it, but if I try to find a little bit more freedom in the movement, I might see, like, okay, I have more pain on the right side, so if I just move like the left side a little bit more, like put more weight on that without being unbalanced, like what might that look like? So now I'm finally rising, about to go through the flow and see what problems, or I'm just about to see how my body is showing up for this first round of the flow. So I'm gonna inhale to, bring, oh wait, no. I take that back. We're gonna come to the back of the mat so that I could bring some energy and do a big jump to the top of the mat, just to, shake off any disappointment and be more accepting of where my body is. So we're going in for that first lunge that requires like the most strength in my wrist, and immediately it's a no. That was just too much for my wrist. So with like the intensity of that pain, I know that I can't try a complete lunge again, like not in that way, but I'm going to try to do everything else the same. So what modification can I do that still makes that possible? Well, we're going to come onto the knee before extending all the way out and just give my wrist a chance to catch up before putting all of that weight on it. So we're going left and right to see if like one leg affects my hand more than the other. And after that, we're going to try just coming to our elbows before doing the plank, so that we don't have to rely on that hand strength at all. And I'm seeing that using my hands to come into the cobra is kind of painful, and I see that coming into downward dog from cobra is like, that was a big effort, but we're still gonna do the full movement because it wasn't so intense that it's gonna stop me. I'm just seeing at this point, like, where is the pain coming from in this movement? And I'm trying to remember. I know it was definitely when I was rising into it, but I think once I was actually in it, it was okay. And then when I was coming out of it, it was a problem. So let's see what I do to how I try to modify things this time. So we're going to inhale and exhale to forward fold. Do this modified lunge, coming onto our knees and then elbows. I liked that. And now we're trying this cobra. I'm a little hesitant because I know it's going to cause a little pain, but this is going to be the movement that I do unmodified, since it's the most simple one that also puts pressure on it, or not the most simple, the one that I have the most control over that still puts pressure on the place that hurts. So now I'm still doing this full out downward dog. And then I'm coming into three-legged dog, and I'm sure this right here is killing me. And it's making it very hard to do the movement and keep like the integrity of it. And at that point, like, once I see that I can't, like, I can do the movement, but I can't, like, I literally just said the same thing. Like, I'm trying to find a different way to describe keeping the integrity of the movement, though. Like, I just know that there's certain ways that my body should be responding to the stretch. And if I have to like force certain things, like coming up out of that 3-legged dog, like having that much of a rounded spine, if I can't come out of it without having a more straight spine, then I know something else needs to be adjusted. So hopefully, as I'm going into this flow, I realize that, but I'm probably still going to do another standard 3-legged dog. It's looking like I will. So I did a small cobra there, probably because I'm wanting to focus more on this downward dog and see what I can do. So instead of going straight into that 3-legged, I'm pedaling it out a little bit more now. I'm shaking my head. No, like, I can't do this again. This is probably going to be the last time I do the 3-legged dog in this flow. Yeah, coming out of it is giving me some pain. You can see with that hesitation. I'm probably thinking at this point that I don't want to do a modification. I'm probably thinking, I know there was some point I was thinking I'm just ready to end this stretch. I've evened it out on both sides. Let me just go inside and take a nap. But I think the thought of my knee injury came to mind. And I know that I'll have to modify eventually. So let's just see what that flow could look like right now. And since I'm recording, like, I probably thought, yeah, like if I find a good modification now and I document it, I could come back to this next time my hand is hurting. Ooh, and there I am trying to push up off and come into this downward dog, but it was really fucking hard. But I did it anyway, so I guess I was wrong. I don't know when I started doing like the modification for this, because this was pretty painful. I remember this. I don't know what was the last straw. Let's see if we can observe. Maybe if it's really hard coming up out of this, that would be my last straw. Or actually, I know exactly what I was thinking here. I was thinking that this inversion felt good. And since I'm really liking the inversion, when I do my modification, that's a piece of the stretch that I want to maintain. So I was probably trying to just fill it out and use my imagination to think, okay, this is the feeling that I'm feeling. What would be another position I could put my body in to feel this without putting the stress on my hands? And before the modification starts, which I think is coming up soon, I'll kind of talk about how I decide what areas I'm going to focus on in my body. Because, of course, like, this flow has different movements. And the different movements, oh, I see that thinking face. But, oh yeah, I'm thinking real hard about these modifications now. This is really funny. What was I saying? Yeah. So the flow has its movements, and those movements have its targeted body parts that it's supposed to stretch. So I take that into consideration, like, duh. And then I take the areas that I know I have pain in, I've had pain in, like, that's also a given. But, something else that I take into consideration is, like, the moon. If you know me, you know the moon is a big determinant of a lot of things for me. Or I wouldn't even say a lot of things. Like, one of the main things is what I'm about to describe right now. And while I'm describing that, let's just acknowledge that I've completely abandoned the flow. This is where I was most likely completely at the breaking point of, should I just accept the stretch that I've gotten so far and go inside, or try just a little bit more? But yeah, so how the moon affects what body part I'm going to focus on. It's kind of a foo-foo thing, but I will just look to see what zodiac the moon is in. And like today, it was, I think, Sagittarius. And the way this affects my yoga is like each sign will have its own like part of the body that you're supposed to give like attention to. And with Sagittarius, like that's coming more so into the lower body, like staying in the hip region. So like I guess I brought this up because I was drawn to the inversion as like a piece of the stretch that I wanted to like maintain while I make these modifications, because that inversion just opened up like my hips, my hip muscles, my like the tops of my thighs, and brought attention to my sacrum in a way that I felt like honored the practice that I have with like focusing on the body parts related to the zodiac. And like, I don't know, like if you don't really care about the personality, whatever that is like attributed to different zodiacs, I feel like using it as a way to check in with yourself physically is like, I feel like that's very beneficial. Like, I think some people will hear the zodiac part of it and then like maybe like shy away from it, like not want to embrace that as a way of like checking in with yourself. But it's like, I don't know, like I want to say something that's going to like that'll like that'll encourage more people to do it that are like on the fence about zodiacs, because it's like it's not really related to the typical thing. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's beneficial to me. Like if I ever like jump out of rhythm with my body like this, it's a way that I can always jump back into something. I feel like I'm not describing this good, but we're gonna revisit this topic. Just know that next time I'm talking about my body and you're listening to it, I'm gonna bring this up again when I can describe it better. But just something, since I can't describe it that well, just something for you to look into yourself. So yeah, I have laid here for a good little minute already. And I like before I made a decision about whether I was going to give up or not, I decided I would just do some breath work. And once again, I don't know what this type of breathing is called, but I was just forcing the air out of my lungs with the intention that it would naturally fill up. Like I don't need to draw air into my lungs, because if I push it all out, there will be this natural fail safe to, clock in, do what I need to do, and fill my lungs back up with air. So you can see my hand rising and falling pretty like sharply, because I'm just going t t t, but I'm doing it through my nose. And that little breath, along with this lion breath you see me doing now, sticking my tongue out on the exhale, getting all of that out, just helped clear my mind to help me want to get the most out of this stretch. So I'm kind of scooting my body up, and I don't know if this is where I try to do a backflip. Girl. Okay, I'm just scooting down further and further. Yep, this is when I started to try to do a fucking backflip. I don't know what possessed me to do this. Those damn breaths. Sometimes, sometimes the mind is clear, sometimes it's not. But I just felt called to try to do these. And I wasn't necessarily trying to do a backflip, but I was. So yeah, something to just take my mind off of the flow so that when I come back to it, like, I'm more so in my body than in my head. Because once I get to the point where I'm kind of about to give up, like, it's mainly a in my head thing, like, oh, this is being like a waste of time. And please don't look at my spine. If I felt like editing, I would probably blur that out, but I'm trying to put some meat on that thing. But yeah, I think I'm gonna try to do one more backflip. Okay, no, we're giving up on that. Thank you. And we're gonna do some hip raises. There we go. Work that sacrum in a different way. Good job. Good job. Okay. And yeah, Dakota, let's get some confidence to hop back into the flow and try something a little more modified in this last 15 minutes that we have on the mat before I gotta start what I had to do today. But today was pretty relaxed. After this, I went and tended to my mother-in-law tongue plant because I just was not watering it, and it is recovering because I gave it some love, but it was struggling. And as you can see here, I'm rotated to the side because this is a very comforting position to me. Typically I'll stretch my arm out and lay my head on that, just so that I have a little bit more cushion and I'm more comfortable. But if I would have stretched my arm out, my arm would have been in the grass with the sticker buds, and we have way too many of those for me to be taking that chance, so I didn't do it. Yeah. So I really thought I would have hopped into the flow again by now, but I was just really enjoying this rest. The things that I had to do throughout the day probably crept into my mind a little bit more, and I just needed some extra time away from those thoughts. So we're just gonna lay in the grass and think about how nice it is to just be here, not doing anything. But like I was saying, I am focused on those sagittal body parts, so I'm trying to still get that awareness in. So that's why I kicked my foot up and I'm dropping it back down, and kicking this other leg up kind of brought up some memories that I had about being in the pool, and how calming that is as a morning exercise or a morning energy boost. So I guess that memory was comforting because the mobility in my knee has come back. So I'm just kind of thinking about all of the things that I'm able to do now because I've been able to recover from that injury, and I'm trying to use that to motivate me to do modifications to meet myself where I am with this hand issue. So I'm gonna start just kicking my legs in this position to really feel that that swimming motion that I enjoy, where you just have to put some effort into them toes, into them calves, and then boom, you're swimming around. So yeah, gonna do some of that, a little bit of that, and if that is not the spark that lights this fire, then I don't know what was. But this was overall a nice stretch. Okay, she's coming back to life. She's coming back to life. Okay. We're gonna do a little of this, a little of that. Girl, what are we about to do? See, I do think a lot before I do certain movements. It's not like once I come into my mat, I'm not constantly moving. There is like some thought and consideration. So if you need to take some time to do some considering, go ahead. No one is making you move constantly. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to see if it would make more sense to do all of this starting from the ground and never like completely rising. And that just made sense to me in this moment. And once I started doing that, everything felt much better. So let's see why it felt better. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna replicate the downward dog. And we do that by just kicking the leg out instead of coming onto them wrists. Now we're gonna do a puppy pose and get out of it. So at this point, this is where, like, I'm still figuring things out, but at this point is where I would say the modifications are kind of in full swing. Like, I've gone through the process where I tested those upper limits. I thought about whether or not like I should continue this at all. And at this point, I'm using that physical whatever. Girl, maybe this isn't the best time to be doing this audio because I just don't know how to describe what's happening. But we're going to push through and keep practicing our language. But yeah, at this point, like I had a better idea of what I needed to do physically to get the integrity of the movements without injuring myself anymore. Injury, accommodation, integrity. Those are the buzzwords in this video. So let's see if now we can kind of talk through what the accommodations are. So we enter the lunge by going through our knees. Just bear with me. We're gonna do this a couple times. We come up out of the cobra and we do a faux downward dog by doing a puppy pose. And we're gonna leave out of this puppy pose that's giving us like this benefit of inversion by doing this faux three-legged dog. And we're doing it on our knees, but we're still stretching the top of that thigh. We're not really active in the foot. I couldn't tell you why. Maybe just forgot. But yeah, we're stretching that out. We're pulling that knee forward, kind of going through that process of like when it was really hard to come out of the three-legged dog. Like we're seeing, doing it in this way helps me see, like it's more micro, so I can see it's more micro, and it's completely removing the use of the injured body part. So what does that allow us to do? Oh, it allows me to see like what are the other pieces of my body that is helping this movement like be possible. So when I was coming out of that faux three-legged dog, I saw, okay, driving that knee in by engaging my core, like I'll focus on that more than focus on like using my hands to support myself. So we're doing another round of this modified flow, coming out of the cobra, lifting up out of that, coming onto the knees instead of into a plank, and going into the puppy dog for the inversion of it all. And when we come up out of that puppy, we're going to come onto our elbows and do a faux three-legged dog. There's another name for this, but as we've shown, I don't know the name of shit. So yeah, I was really happy with how this felt, because I hated that I couldn't get the full like whatever of that stretch, but this kept it. Great description. Okay, so we're gonna inhale and open our body up to the right and open our body up to the left. All things we would have typically done standing up, but by starting on the ground, it's putting less pressure. Like, I don't have to think about how I can float to the ground without using my hands because I'm already on the ground. So now I can think of those more key movements. So that was a nice little adjustment. And the most painful part of this flow, unmodified, was coming up out of the cobra into the downward dog. So by staying on our knees right here, that is helping a lot to make sure that I can still, get these stretches in, but save my hands. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say regarding accommodation. So now we'll just try to treat the rest of this as a follow along, because once I hit this pigeon pose, I just knew I had figured this out, because I could feel like the way my hips were kind of sinking into it. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have got that if I was pushing through the pain of my hand. So a lot of satisfaction was coming in around here, but satisfaction and fatigue, because I was trying so many things, experienced so much hurt. I definitely said that the rest of this was going to be a follow through. I lied. I still want to talk about the accommodations of it all, because yeah, once I got to this point, like, I just felt much more confident about the rest of my day, because like by having this little practice of making sure that I'm going to show up for myself physically and not push my body past like what it can do. Like, I'm going to push it to what it can do. What's the better way of saying that? Like, it just showed me that when my body needs some gentleness, I'm going to provide that. And it's not always going to mean that I'm going to give up. Like, I might have periods where I, lay on the ground for a long time and just breathe. But that is going to give me time and space to figure out what I need to do to come back and get what I need from myself. Because, yeah, I definitely would not have been able to get the joy of opening up my hips from pushing through everything. So now when I'm taking on the rest of my day, I know that when I come across a challenge, I'm just going to kind of refer back to how I treated myself on the mat this morning. So, like, I had a little roadblock on something else that I was working on after the mother-in-law tongue repotting. And it's like, okay, like, I could be perfectly discouraged and need to give up completely and just wait until all of the conditions are perfect for me to be able to come back. Or I could just take a little time to regroup and figure out how I can show up with what I have right now. So, I guess at this point I'm just letting all of the lessons of this stretch settle in by just soaking in that sun a little bit more before the winter comes and takes all the joy away. But yeah, tilting my head that far back for me is typically not comfortable, since my slouch and posture kind of wants things to go the other way. But throwing that head back and showing off my women Adam's apple, like, that just feels so great. So great. So yeah, that is the end of my practice. Now I'm just picking up all those sticker rods I was talking about. And yeah, I just love this mat so much. Like I said, or maybe that was in a different take, but this was one of the best birthday gifts that I've gotten. Like, the cushiness of this mat just like reminds me of how supported I could be by other people. But I have noticed that when I don't use this mat, like, it is a little bit better for my wrist. Like, something about the cushioniness of it, I think, is maybe babying my wrist a little too much. And I do need to feel like the hardness of a ground that doesn't have like 2 inches of foam in between it. But yeah, for the rest of this, I'll just be picking everything up, getting the rest of the sticker bras off my mat. So not really much else to say. Yeah, just doing, right here I'm doing my little affirmations. Yeah, I guess I won't share those right now because they're pretty personal. So I'm just gonna keep rolling up my mat, getting a sticker rod off my foot. Yep, get it out. And eventually I'm gonna get up and try to get the sticker rods off of the towel. I decided that this is my permanent outside towel. It was way too much of a hassle trying to get the little stickies up off of that. So yeah, I shook it off. I did the best I can with the towel. The towel could not be saved. But yeah, look at the movement in that tree. it's so windy out here. So I probably never will record anything outside with how much wind, or verbally record, you know what I mean? But yeah, lots of wind going on. A nice combination of sunshine and heat with that like little breeze. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow I'll get the chance to go outside and have another round, see where my hand is at. And if not, there's always indoors. And yep, that's all I got for ya.